Alright, what are we in the mood for today? You know what? Let's get some tier 10. I'm looking for a light fighter. Something that can get up reasonably high. Let's see. Sorry, Yak. It's not going to be you. But I do want some decent maneuverability. Oh, you know what? Yes. Let's hop into this bad boy. Hey there, Postal here. So today we're going to check out the Ki-162-III. I got this plane a little while ago. Haven't played it too much since I got it, unfortunately. Been trying to grind so many different things at once. It's kind of annoying. I do like this particular plane though. It is a great all-arounder, and what do I mean by that? Well, you look at the metrics on it, the stats, and gun armament doesn't look overly crazy good. 28 is on the low end. But there's 30mm guns, so when we're looking at the tech tree here, you're heading down the Army's version of the light fighter lines for the Japanese lines. This is the Navy's version, which has the quintessential zeros, and then the keys are everything that's going to be ground-based. Ends in the Ki-162-III. This plane has those two 30mm guns that you would have earned, or very similar to the ones that were earned at Tier 8 on the Ki-94 Mark II, and the same guns that you would have at Tier 9. 240 damage per second per, which is actually pretty darn low for this tier, hence the gun armament rating of 28. Survivability is inconsequential on the light fighters. All of them are so low on survivability. They're very similar to each other. This one's going to be right in line with a lot of the others. But what this does have above others, it's not the best airspeed, but it's very good airspeed. You've got these two jet engines on top. Being protruding like that, you're going to notice that the engines do get knocked out pretty often. And so I've actually got my service set up a little bit differently on this plane than I would some of my other light fighters. The maneuverability is excellent. This is actually the second most maneuverable plane, I believe. Yes, just below the Yak-30, but not by much. A Yak-30 can outmaneuver me, but in those kind of situations, I'll typically try to bring the Yak-30 higher to where I can get him out of his optimal range and still have me in my optimal range, and I'll be able to outmaneuver him. I've actually done that before with the Tier 9 Ki-162, and so it definitely can be done with this Tier 10 version of it. Now the altitude performance is showing pretty low, kind of a little bit above what the multi-rolls at this tier would be. But in reality, this plane's altitude performance, it can actually do very well up high. Service ceiling's 13,000 feet, although the optimum altitude is 6,500. You're going to notice that I can go up above that pretty easily with these two jet engines. You don't necessarily want to stick up there for too long, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable being that high up. Now, having the two 30s on this particular gun, like any of the planes that have two 30s or just two guns in general, you want to make sure that you have your plane set up for accuracy. You want those guns to hit, right? Very similar to the 23s that are on the Yak-15, and obviously the two 30s that are on the Ki-162 Mark I, and the two 30s that are on the Swift. You have those set up with your gyroscopic sights, and then your pilot you want to have set up with your marksman. You really need to make sure that you're hitting, especially these, because these actually do less damage than the 30s on the Swift. So with this particular plane, I want to make sure that I am avoiding as many hits as possible. There's no point in me trying to buff the hit points or anything like that. The hit point pool is so small it doesn't really make a difference. So I want to make myself even more maneuverable, and I do that with the improved lightweight power unit and with the lightweight wing frame. Now, I can't believe I haven't upgraded this yet. Why haven't I upgraded this? Shame on me. Enhance. So I'm going to have it at least on this particular setting until, hey look, my wings resistance to damage went up. Perfect. Until I specialize this particular plane, which will probably be a while because just because I'm bouncing around to so many different things. It's got nothing to do with my enjoyment of this plane, because I really do enjoy it. But some things that I've got set up a little bit differently on this particular plane, at least at this tier. Although I've got the first aid kit, I definitely have the emergency control system. I don't need the pneumatic control assist because I'm already as maneuverable as I am. The plane doesn't actually catch on fire all that often. Now the engines get knocked out all the time, but the plane itself doesn't catch on fire, much unlike the planes at lower tiers. What I do have, and I fooled around with if I wanted to use the engine cooling on this particular plane, which I would typically use at this tier, and I had my equipment set up to protect the engines, but it didn't help. No matter how much I put towards helping the engines not get knocked out, they would still get knocked out. And I figured at this point, well, instead of throwing all my equipment towards something that's not even working anyway, I'll put the equipment towards avoiding getting hit. And if I do get hit, I've got the manual engine restart. And you just kind of have to deal with it in this kind of situation. So it doesn't get the same kind of, I have it set up to where it doesn't get the same kind of boost as all my other tier 10 planes. And it can be a little frustrating from time to time when I really want to kind of boost away, but you just have to be more mindful when you're using your boost to not overuse it. So of course I've got my universal ammunition, which I highly recommend on every single plane. It's worth the silver whether you have a premium account or not. So this is a little tiny plane compared to some of the other planes out there. The Swift is pretty large compared to it. It has large wing area, so to speak. The largest part of this particular plane is its engines, right? The rest of it doesn't get hit all that often. Some of the other planes are pretty small at tier 10, but you're going to notice like some of the tier 9s and definitely smaller than the heavy planes that are out there. The Sabre is actually one of the smaller planes, just in the game, and it's a little bit bigger than this plane. Yak 30 is about the same size, I guess you'd say. But you try to avoid getting hit rather than boosting up any of your other resistance. So that's enough chit chat about the plane itself. Let's go ahead and take a look at it in some gameplay.
Good luck.
There we go. You can see, the tail of the plane's not overly big. It's just that engine. Got to watch out for that engine. So tier 10 battle. We've got, it's me and a Sabre versus some bots. Let's take advantage of it. So obviously we're not going to be going for the mining facility. Let's go ahead and go to the old airbase. I'll go ahead and get myself up to about 6,000 feet. I just noticed, unlike every other light fighter at tier 10, this plane's wings aren't swept wings. Okay, so 6,000 feet. We got some defense aircraft coming in. I'm actually going to go down towards the bottom here, take out the light aircraft. If I can. Oh, too much speed, Postal. Speed's bad, kids. Actually hitting my air brakes right now so I can get behind these guys proper-like. There we go. Let's go ahead and get some reds, because we know they're coming in. The red, nope. I was going to get the red in the back, but I guess I'll get this guy. So you can see, when the guns hit, and they're doing decent, it's just getting them to hit. And so very often I'm going to be doing this, I'm kind of pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. And so that way I'm not overheating my guns, because, nothing's worse than... Ooh, javelin. Nothing's worse than being able to take out an enemy and your guns being overheated. I know I'm going to take him out, or I assume I'm going to take him out. I will hold the trigger down. But otherwise, I want to make sure my guns can cool off relatively quickly. So this might be one of the times where, under normal circumstances, I'd kick in the engine cooling and get my extra boost. Can't do that in this particular plane, right? I don't have that engine cooling. I can't have that engine cooling. We'll see if it makes a difference in this particular game. But honestly, more times than not, I'm not going after JU-287, not in this plane, not that high up. More often than not, it's so much better to have the engine restart than the engine cooling. I would be thoroughly surprised if my engine doesn't get knocked out at least twice in this match, because it just happens that way. Ground pounder down that way, 228 down this way. So, some multi-rolls first. So let's go ahead and take care of these multi-rolls, especially this guy. I ain't too proud. I'm a subjugator. Don't be a hater to the subjugator. I think that J7's just kind of going the other way, so what am I doing here? 287. Can I hit him on the bottom a little bit and then let him keep going? That's all I'm planning on doing. His rear gunner probably is better than my forward-facing gunner, so we're going to do that and head on down. Another bomber coming in? Well, alright. I didn't want to go after them to begin with, but, you know, where they're at right now, and I obviously killed that guy's gunner, I can take these bombers down in this kind of situation. See, I'm up here at 9,000 feet, and I'm still pretty maneuverable, so this is what I mean by people think of this line as a high-altitude line. Per the metrics of the game, it truly isn't. But in the gameplay itself, it can be under the right circumstances. Grade 1, we got a MiG, which is definitely a high-altitude fighter. In this particular situation, I want to pull him down. And I'm not, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let's go over this way and see what we can do to get their facility here. Get the F7U. Definitely will have more maneuverability than an F7U, especially if he continues to go down. Excellent. Let's go ahead and get down, down, down. Get this javelin if I can. See what I mean by trigger discipline. I really don't want my guns to overheat. Excellent. Yep, so we're going to let that guy keep on going. I want to get down here to the Spitfires. Something that when I hit, it takes off half their health. Well, maybe not half their health, but, you know, more than some of the heavy fighters out there. Excellent. Let's go ahead and I'm going to boost around. Don't need no heavy fighter coming after me. I'm going to go after the Spitfire, who's kind of suspended in mid-air. Got a heavy fighter still. Is that Javelin again? Get this Javelin if I can. Is he going to turn? If he doesn't turn, I'm probably not going to be able to catch him. Turning the wrong way, sir. That's not what I meant, you jerk. So we'll just act like we don't want him. No, we don't want you. It's like telling a girl you don't want her. She'll come back. If I ever meet a girl named Javelin, I'm going to think of this dang plane. It's running away from me right now. Alright, so what do we want to do here? I want to defend, if at all possible. This plane is excellent at defending when it hits. See if we can knock out his wings or his engines. It is a flying tank, isn't it? Seems to be able to just take all the hits and keep on going. But got his tail, got his wing, got his other wing. Now he's toast, right?
Our airfield is under enemy control. We need to retake the initiative.
I'm really not freaking out, man. It's gonna be okay. Let's see what we can do against Ground Pounder.
Way to go. Victory is close.
So we've knocked out his engine. And these guns are really good at doing critical damage, as you would think 30s would be. They may be 60 damage per second less than an Aiden, but they still do all the good damage. Alright, let's go ahead and get this F7U. There's two F7Us. How conveniently convenient. Watch out for whatever the heck that heavy is that's coming in. Go. Trigger discipline. Javelin again? It's like kill the day of the kill the javelins. Oh.
Cannot support you any longer.
No, of course.
You copy. Over.
I copy. What you're telling me is when I kill this guy, he can't come back. Alright, so hit the air brakes there so I can get behind him. Yeah, F7U goes a million miles an hour slower than I do, but I can slow down to his. Alright, so we were able to get him a Campbell and a Nakamatsu, only a grade 3, but I think you can kind of tell how this plane can be used, when you want to pull it up high and when you want to drop it down low. Let's head on back. Alright, sniffle sniffle, still out of the cold, but again, got a grade 3. Got him a Campbell, got him an Akamatsu, and 12 frags, so not the end of the world kind of stuff. So those mining facility matches tend to go by pretty quick, and this one is no exception. It's 7.5 minutes. Kudos to our F94D player here, but otherwise, you can see the potential of this particular plane. I think I said my engine was going to get knocked out. I don't think it actually got knocked out this game, which would honestly be the first time in forever that it hasn't been knocked out. But I think that had more to do with how I was flying the plane and its maneuverability. That allowed me to avoid getting hit altogether. One of the other perks that I've got on this plane, a skill I guess you'd say, is the Aerodynamics Expert. So aircraft maneuverability and speed, anything that's mounted helps it by an additional 40%. So those two items would be buffed by that particular item. I really do enjoy this particular plane. I mean, just let's take it at face value. It's not the best at anything. I don't even have the LA 15 or the MiG 15 yet, and I know that those two planes have other strengths that could be stronger than this particular plane, but I also know this is probably the most well-rounded plane at tier 10. Argument can definitely be made for some other planes, but I feel comfortable whatever situation I'm in this particular plane, as long as I'm mindful of what's around me. I can go up high if I need to go up high. I can go down low if I need to go down low. I can try to pull people up high if that's where they're uncomfortable, and I can pull them down low if that's where they're uncomfortable. The guns hit hard enough to do significant damage to a lot of planes out there. This is really good multi-role killer. It's a very good fighter killer. It can take down heavies pretty well. It just takes a little while, as long as it matters if you're hitting or not. And you saw how well and easily we were taking down the ground pounders. Bombers are a different story. Bombers and ground pounders, to a lesser extent, can tear this particular plane up. The reason ground pounders aren't as detrimental as bombers is because ground pounder you can wiggle quite a bit. If you know some maneuvers you can do to stay away from their rear gunner, you can come at them from side to side pretty easily since you're so far down low. A lot of the bombers, especially the German bombers, are up there so high that you lose decent amount of maneuverability and you could get stuck just getting chewed up by their rear gunners. So that's what I mean by that. But I hope you enjoyed this particular review. If you did, feel free to give it a like. Have you gotten all the way up to the Ki-162-III? And if so, do you like it, or are you down with some of the other planes on this line? This is a pretty well liked line because it's relatively well balanced all the way up, and this plane continues that balancing of being able to go up high when you need to, but having the maneuverability when you want to have that maneuverability. Guns hitting hard when they hit. So I hope you enjoyed it, and otherwise I hope you have a wonderful day.